Hey everyone, welcome to this tutorial. If you're new here, I'm Kate, the founder of Project Patterns. I'm a professional pattern cutter working in London, and I started Project Patterns as a place to share my love and hopefully some knowledge of pattern cutting with all of you. You can find me on Instagram at Project Patterns, or you can find me on my website, projectpatterns.co.uk, where you'll find a whole range of online courses. I also do one-to-one tuition, and I do free tutorials just like this one. Okay, so this month on Project Patterns, we're thinking about how we can use geometric shapes in our pattern cutting. So to start us off, I wanted to start with something simple that anyone can learn to do. Drafting a circular skirt. You will all be familiar with this. It's literally a circle with a hole in the middle that creates a skirt like this. It's super full. It falls down here. And honestly, it's so simple to draft. There is a little bit of maths involved, but I promise it's not that bad. And there's a couple of other things we need to think about when we draft this. Things like seam allowance, things like fabric width, all those kinds of things. We'll take them into account when we draft our circle. So let's have a quick look at how the pattern cutting works. Now for a circle skirt, we don't actually want to go and draw the whole circle out. That's long. Instead, what we'll do is we'll draft a portion of it onto a piece of paper that's folded in a way that we can unfold it and then have the full circle. So I'm going to draft a quarter circle onto a piece of paper that's folded with 4 layers, because I'm doing a full circle, 4 quarters equals 1, right? So I'm doing it in one piece because I'm not going to have any fabric width issues because I'm doing half scale. If you're doing full scale, you want to think about maybe adding a side seam into it, in which case you wouldn't draft with 4 layers of fabric, you could just, or paper rather, you could just draft with 2 layers of paper, because if you're going to have a side seam in each side, then you really only need to draft a half circle. 2 quarters makes a half. Hope that makes sense. But for my full circle piece, I have 1 fold, 2 fold, which means I have 4 layers of paper. And then this corner here, one with all the folds on it, is going to be the center of my circle. Okay, this is what our pattern piece ends up looking like. You can see I've got my 4 quarters all in one circle. I also have a center back seam because we need to be able to get into it, right? So when we work out our waist measurement here, it needs to include our seam allowance for this seam. So I'm going to add 1 centimeter to my total waist measurement because I'm working in half scale. So 1/2 centimeter and 1/2 centimeter. My waist measurement is 33 for my half scale mannequin, so that means my waist measurement, my total circumference measurement for this circle is going to be 34. What we need to do on our square piece of paper that we've folded up is draw this circle on the corner that is the center of the circle. To do that, we need to know what the radius is. The radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. Diameter is from edge to edge, radius is from center to edge, and circumference is the whole thing. So how do we find out what our radius is? We have a really handy little formula that helps us. Basically, the radius of our circle is equal to the circumference of our circle divided by 2 times pi. 2 times pi is 3.14 times 2, which is 6.28. So if my radius, or my circumference rather, is 34, if I divide that by 6.28, that gives me 5.4. So the radius of my circle is 5.4. So I'm going to go to the center of my circle, the corner with all the points. I'm going to measure down from the center, 5.4, and make a little mark. Now, to draw in my circle, you can use a compass if you've got one. If your circle ends up being too big that you don't need a compass, then you can't use a compass rather, then a piece of string is a really good option for this. So I'm going to put my pen, should be a pencil, I'm only using pens so you guys can see clearly, but I'm going to put my pencil in a loop at the end of my piece of string. I'm going to grab my awl and I'm going to put my pen on the mark I just made. And then I'm going to use my awl to anchor down my string on the corner of my paper there. Then I'm simply going to rotate it around. And then I've got my quarter circle. So next we need to think about the length of our circle. So my circle is going to be, or my skirt rather, is going to be 24 centimeters. So I'm measuring from my waistline down 24 centimeters, making a little mark, and then I'm just going to repeat this process. So pen in the loop, pen on the mark I just made, and my awl and my ribbon. Oh. Going right here at the end in the corner of my paper. And then all I'm going to do is rotate this around. Make sure it draws. Okay, just like magic, we've got our hemline as well. So let's quickly pop some seam allowance on here. I'm going to put 0.5 centimeter at my waistline. Great. Next, we want to cut this out. So at the moment, it's just a huge bit of paper with only one bit on there. As soon as we cut it out, it becomes an actual pattern piece. So I'm going to start by pinning my pieces together. Remember, we always want to pin our paper together, make sure nothing moves around. And then when we unpin it and open it out, we're going to have a circle, just like magic. Okay, so then what do we do with this circle? We need to add our centre back seam. So on one of my folds, I'm going to pop my centre back seam. I'm going to put 1 centimetre of seam allowance on each side. And then I'm going to cut up that seam to make it really clear. Boom. That's where my centre back seam is. Great. So that is my pattern piece done. Just going to pop a grain line on there. And right centre front. Side seam, side seam, side seam, side seam. And this is my centre back and the centre back. Perfect. We have our full circle skirt pattern. Let's take a quick look and remind ourselves what this looks like on the stand. Okay, amazing. So when we've drafted our circle and twirled it up, this is what it looks like. Now remember, we said that we need to secure the waist somehow, so you'd need to draft a little waistband or stitch this onto the bottom of a bodice if you're making a dress. And remember, I'm working in half scale, so I don't have any side seams or anything, but you might have side seams. And don't forget, if you have a side seam, you can put a pocket in it. And I've only got my centre back seam here. So okay, amazing. So this is what our circular skirt looks like once we've cut it out and put it. Okay, amazing. So this is what our circular skirt looks like once we've cut it out and twirled it. Remember, we said that the circle in the middle, the smaller circle, the waist circle, has a tendency to stretch out. So remember that you need to secure it somehow. Maybe you want to put a waistband on it, maybe you're making it into a dress, so you're going to stitch it onto the waist of a bodice. Whatever you're doing, all good. And remember to think about your fabric width. You might have to put a side seam in here, and if you do, why not put a pocket bag in it? We all love a dress or a skirt with pockets, right? Okay, so if you guys enjoyed this, remember to like and comment below. If there is some kind of geometric shape that you are desperate to see in a pattern, pop it in the comments, let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned this month for more circle shapes, more square shapes and triangle shapes as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!